The COVID-19 pandemic has rewritten the rules on economics in the United States and around the globe. It's a pleasure to welcome Suze Orman, personal finance expert, #1 New York Times bestselling author, with her advice for surviving the economic turmoil of the day. She is also the host of the Women and Money podcast, and her latest book is The Ultimate Retirement Guide for 50 Plus, Winning Strategies to Make Your Money Last a Lifetime. All right, we start with the basics, Suze. Has the pandemic changed the way we should look at our finances?
I hope it does, Larry. I'm sorry that obviously that the pandemic happened, but we need to look at our finances in a very more realistic way. You know, forever, I've always said to you and everybody, you need at least an 8-month emergency fund. You need that. And this was a perfect example of those people who didn't have an emergency fund, all of a sudden found themselves standing in food lines, waiting to try to get unemployment if they were able to waiting for that stimulus check. That is not how you want to live your life. So hopefully what's happened with this pandemic is it has become a reality to people that you really need an emergency fund in case you lose your job, the economy shuts down, and things like that.
So does that mean don't pay off the credit cards?
I have to tell you, at this time, you know, out of all the advice that I've given over all these years, which is don't have credit card debt, always pay more than the minimum payment due. During this time, when you had lost your job, you didn't have any money in savings. All you had were credit card bills, and you had available credit limit. When money came in, my advice was do not pay off those credit cards. You should instead pick up the phone, call your creditors and ask for a deferment and save your cash, because you never know when credit card companies can close down your credit cards, so you need cash. So yeah, my advice had changed for this particular point in time.
The New York Times recently wrote about you, quote, "When the economy is good, Miss Orman's business does fine, but your bust is her boom." Are you doing better now? What's your reaction to this?
I have to tell you, I am. And it's not just, my book came out right when this happened, The Ultimate Retirement Guide, and Larry, without any publicity behind it whatsoever. It went to #1 on Amazon for an entire week almost, of all books. That never happens. My podcast, the number of downloads have almost doubled, almost tripled at times, because people really wanted to know, what should they do? Should they sell? Should they buy? And the podcast was there twice a week to absolutely tell them what they should have done and should still be doing.
To the extent you haven't paid your mortgage, you've asked an extension on that, you asked for an extension on the credit cards. What do you do with the cash?
What you do with the cash right now is obviously you keep it as safe as possible. And things that you need to pay that don't accept credit card, for instance, that you have to pay in cash. Maybe your landlord doesn't take a credit card, so you have to pay that in cash or whatever it may be. But just keep your cash in the highest yielding savings account. Typically, a credit union is far better than a savings account because they'll give you a higher interest rate. So keep it someplace that's safe and sound and gives you a good interest rate.
What's your advice to the graduating college student? He's already built up a debt to pay for his schooling. What's your advice?
Yeah. Listen, you got into debt with student loans so that you could hopefully get a job. And maybe there's not a job there for you, and you're going to be tempted to not pay that student loan. You're going to want to go into deferment or forbearance. Do not do that. Student loans in most cases can't be discharged in bankruptcy. So your #1 goal is to pay your student loan at least on time, whether it's the standard repayment method, hopefully over 10 years, or an income-based repayment method. Whatever it is, do not let your student loan go into default. It should be the first loan you pay, bar none.
What about people approaching retirement?
People approaching retirement, and I'm not just saying this because it's my book, but they really need to read this book, because the advice in this book is very different than any advice that I've given in any other book that I've written. Because now, Larry, I'm 69. And now I'm writing about retirement from a whole different perspective. It's different when you're 45 writing about it and when you're 69, and essentially in those years. So what you need to do is make sure that you have at least 3 years of a cash reserve, because you never want to touch money that's in the stock market if the stock market's going down. So there's different advice in this book than I've ever given before. One is look into a lifetime annuity. 2, make sure you have at least 3 years of a cash reserve, and all other kinds of things like that.
Now, why, in spite of all these economic problems, is the stock market doing well?
Because the stock market is not the economy. And if you look at all the money that the government has infused into the system, there are people now making more money, Larry, on unemployment than they were when they were working. And at the same time, they were able to defer their credit card payments, their car payments, their insurance payments, their mortgage payments, their rent payments. So a lot of people now, there's money out there, believe it or not. What are they going to do with their money? They're going to put it in a savings account at 0.5% interest? No, they're going to take it and put it back in the stock where you can get a 5 or 6% yield in dividend paying stocks. And they see the market go up and they go, I'm missing out. So more people come in and more people come in and more people come in. And the truth is they never should have gotten out of the stock market to begin with, right? But the market right now is where people want their money because there's no other place to put it.
For millennials, how much reliance should they put in their Social Security when planning their retirement?
Well, they have to put some reliance in it. I think it should still be there for them. No guarantees. But whether it's there for them or not, that check isn't big enough to get you by, to pay for your needs as well as your wants. So when you're younger, your number one goal is to put money away today for your tomorrows. Fully fund your Roth IRAs, fully fund money that's a Roth 401k or a Roth 403b. Don't do traditional accounts anymore where you go for the tax write-off. Make it so that you do after-tax money, pay the taxes today. So years from now, what you see is what you get. Because if you think tax brackets aren't going to go up to pay for the deficit that we have created 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I have a bridge to sell you. So invest in Roth retirement accounts across the board, stay out of debt, live below your means but within your needs, and you save as much money as you possibly can.
Did we learn anything from the 2008 financial crisis? Did that crisis help us in dealing with the financial impact of the current pandemic or not?
I don't think it did. I always have this saying that the easiest thing to do in life is to forget. The hardest thing is to remember. If people had looked at when the market crashed, and then the market came back, and then it went on to be the most roaring bull market, at least that I can remember in a long time, where you averaged about 14.3% a year on your money over 10 years. When this had happened back in February, early March, you wouldn't have sold. You wouldn't have panicked. You would have continued to invest in your 401k plan if you still had a job. You would not have come out of the stock market going, I have to get out, I have to get out. You would have just stayed the course. And I kept telling everybody that on my podcast. I begged them, please don't sell. Don't do this. When oil had gone down, it was like, let's buy oil. Let's buy XLE. And I'm so glad I told everybody to do that, which is the ETF for oils. We're up almost 30% now. So I don't think we learned. I still think people panicked. And I don't think they learned then that they need an 8-month emergency fund. They forgot that. So many people were in trouble because of that.
Now we go from the pandemic, while it still continues to last, into a crisis on the streets and no faith in America and unemployment at an all-time high. What do you say now?
I say that unemployment is probably higher than those numbers are showing. If you look at how they figure the unemployment rate, it it takes into consideration everybody who's not looking for a job, other people. So we're probably at truthfully at least a 19 or 20% unemployment rate. 40% of the jobs that got lost are not going to come back, in my opinion. So it's not going to be good out there. The economy is going to suffer, and rightfully so. Larry, people should be protesting and they should be angry because the system has never been fair, to minorities and especially blacks. Never. All colors. So this is the time that it's not just, in my opinion, about the economy and your financial rights. This is about human rights and human dignity. So, I hope they keep protesting until change really comes about.
We're going to see a big turnout in the election, do you think?
I think we're going to see a tremendous turnout in the election. I think what's just happened now with all, everything coming out, it's no longer just the blacks protesting, it's white, Latina, it's everybody, men, women, young and old. They've had enough. And in my opinion, they should have had enough. This is enough. This is crazy what's going on here. And I don't think people still want to see the government that we have that is, in my opinion, corrupt, full of liars, nobody having any compassion for what's really happening in our world today as far as who's in office. I think people want to change. I hope they turn out, because if they don't turn out, we're not going to have a change.
So you think we're going to have a change in the office?
I'm praying that we do, but I can tell you this, even if Biden wins, no way is Trump going to give up that seat. He is not going to concede. He is going to tell everybody the election was fixed. I want to do the results again. We probably won't know who's president until probably January. No way is he just going to go out quietly like a little lamb. Are you kidding me?
Wish you nothing but the best. Thanks so much, Susie. Always great seeing you.
And same to you, Larry. Much love to you. Much love.